The process server found me between my graduation cake and my sister's surprise engagement announcement, smiled politely, and handed me a lawsuit for $61,482 in debt I did not know existed. My mother's fork hit her plate like a tiny bell. My stepfather whispered, "Not here." And my sister, wearing white at my celebration, actually asked if we could keep the focus on family. My name is Natalie Rivera, I'm 25, and on May 18, I graduated from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County with a master's degree in cybersecurity. I had worked 2 campus jobs, tutored freshmen in Python, and lived in a basement apartment in Catonsville that smelled like laundry detergent and old carpet to get there. My job offer from Sentinel Ridge Security in Washington, D.C., was for $92,000 a year, more money than anyone in my family had ever made starting out. My mother, Carla Rivera, was 52 and worked as an office secretary at a private elementary school in Towson. My stepfather, Victor Mendez, was 55, a contractor who always had paint under his fingernails and an opinion about everyone's life. My younger sister, Daniela, 23, owned a small online clothing boutique called Danny's Closet, which mostly survived on family encouragement and my mother's credit cards. For years, I believed we were close. We did Sunday dinners in my mother's row house kitchen in Baltimore, where garlic and sofrito stuck to your clothes. Victor would slap my shoulder and say, "Our genius is going to save us all someday." Daniela borrowed my sweaters, cried on my bed after breakups, and called me her safe person. When my grandmother Rosa died in 2019, Mom told me Abuela had left me a $38,000 education fund because, in her words, Natalie is the one who will carry the family forward. So when Mom insisted on throwing my graduation dinner at La Paloma on Pratt Street, I believed it came from pride. She reserved the back room, ordered pastelitos, hired my cousin Adrian to take photos, and told me, "Just show up in that cap and gown, Mija. Let us celebrate you for once." The first signs were small enough to step over. On March 7, my banking app showed a hard inquiry from Harbor Community Credit Union, and my stomach tightened while I sat in the library under buzzing fluorescent lights. Mom waved it away on the phone. "Probably a mistake, sweetheart. Those apps glitch all the time." Then Daniela stopped answering whenever I asked how the boutique was doing. At Easter dinner, I heard Victor in the hallway mutter, "She gets paid in July. We just need to hold them off." When I walked in, the air smelled like roasted peppers and panic. He smiled too wide and asked if I wanted more rice. On April 22, a letter arrived at my apartment addressed to Natalie Rivera, guarantor. I called Mom with the paper trembling in my hand. "What does guarantor mean?" I asked. She paused just long enough for the silence to feel heavy. "It means you're responsible, Natalie. That's what adults do." I laughed because I thought she was joking. She was not. Graduation day was bright and windy, the kind of Baltimore afternoon where the harbor flashes silver and everyone's hair refuses to behave. I remember the scratchy collar of my gown, the weight of my honors cord against my neck, the way my palms smelled faintly like the roses my professor handed me after the ceremony. For about 2 hours, I felt untouchable. At La Paloma, the back room was packed with 27 relatives. Gold balloons spelled out "Congrats Nat," though the tea kept twisting backward. My cake sat on a table beside my framed diploma, white frosting with blue flowers. I was halfway through thanking everyone when Daniela stood up in a cream dress and tapped her spoon against a glass. "I know today is about Natalie," she said, smiling with glossy eyes, "but family joy multiplies." My mouth went dry. Her boyfriend, Eric, dropped to one knee beside my graduation cake. People screamed. My aunt knocked over a water glass. Adrian's camera flash popped like lightning. Then a man in a navy blazer appeared at the door holding a manila envelope. "Natalie Rivera?" he asked. "That's me," I said, still clapping because my brain had not caught up. He handed me the papers. "You've been served." The room went quiet so fast I heard the air conditioner rattle. I opened the envelope and saw my name, my social security number, and the word civil complaint for defaulted business loan. My heartbeat slammed in my ears. I looked at my mother. "What is this?" Mom's face drained pale under her makeup. "Natalie, we were going to explain." Daniela whispered, "Please don't ruin my moment." That sentence snapped something inside me, but the full truth was worse than a forged loan. I left the restaurant shaking, sat in my car in the parking garage, and read every page under the yellow overhead light. Harbor Community Credit Union was suing me, Daniela, and Danny's Closet for $61,482 plus fees. My signature appeared on 6 documents. It looked almost right, except the N in Natalie curled the wrong way. At the bottom was an email address I recognized, carla.rivera52@gmail.com. My mother had submitted the paperwork. When I got home, my apartment smelled like stale coffee and rain through the cracked window. I opened my laptop with fingers so cold they barely worked and logged into every credit report I could find. There were 3 accounts I had never opened: the Harbor loan, a $7,900 business credit line, and a store card maxed out at $3,214. My credit score had dropped from 742 to 588. Then I found the second layer. The education fund from Abuela Rosa was gone. Not reduced. Gone. $38,000 had been transferred in pieces over 14 months to Daniela's boutique account. The dates lined up with inventory shipments, website redesign fees, and something labeled launch event decor. I called Mom at 11:43 p.m. My hands shook so hard the phone almost slipped. "Tell me you didn't take Abuela's fund," I said. She exhaled like I was exhausting her. "Your sister needed a chance too. That was for my education." "You got scholarships," she snapped. "Daniela had nothing." "I had debt, Mom. I ate noodles for dinner 3 nights a week." Victor came on the line. "Watch your tone. We did what was best for the family." "No," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You did what was best for Daniela." For the next 2 weeks, I barely slept. At 3 a.m., I stared at the ceiling fan in my basement apartment, watching the blades cut shadows across the wall. My stomach stayed knotted so tight even toast felt like too much. I called in sick to my campus tech job twice because my eyes were swollen and my voice sounded like gravel. The worst part was not the money. It was remembering every time Mom had hugged me and told me she was proud while secretly using my name like a spare key. It was Daniela posting engagement photos from my graduation dinner with the caption, "Best day ever surrounded by love," while my diploma sat cropped out of every picture. It was Victor texting, "Be mature. Don't embarrass your mother." My body felt hollow. I kept replaying Daniela's voice, "Please don't ruin my moment." My moment had been robbed in front of everyone, and somehow I was the problem for noticing. The turning point came on June 3rd, when Adrian sent me the graduation photos. He included a folder labeled Extra, and inside was a video he had accidentally recorded before the process server walked in. The camera pointed at the floor, but the audio was crystal clear. Victor's voice said, "If she gets served here, she'll be too embarrassed to fight it." Then Mom replied, "Natalie always fixes things. She'll pay it once she calms down." I sat frozen, the blue laptop light on my face, my pulse suddenly steady. They had not panicked because the papers arrived. They had planned to use my humiliation as leverage. I stopped crying that night. I made a folder on my desktop and named it Truth. My revenge was not loud at first. It was organized. I booked a consultation with Marin Sato, a fraud attorney in Silver Spring, for $300 I put on my emergency card. Her office smelled like lemon cleaner and fresh paper, and she listened without interrupting while I laid out bank statements, credit reports, emails, and Adrian's audio. When I finished, she leaned back and said, "Natalie, this is not family drama. This is identity theft, financial exploitation, and likely forgery." The word forgery made my throat tighten. "What do I do?" I asked. "You document everything. You communicate only in writing. And you let consequences do their job." So I did. I filed identity theft reports with the FTC and Baltimore County Police. I disputed every account with the credit bureaus. I sent Harbor Community Credit Union a notarized fraud affidavit. Marin subpoenaed the loan application metadata, including IP addresses, upload times, and device information. Then I set the trap. I texted Mom, Daniela, and Victor in a group chat, "I'm willing to meet Saturday to discuss repayment if everyone is honest about what happened." Mom answered in 11 seconds. "Thank you." Finally. I reserved a private meeting room at the Enoch Pratt Library, not a restaurant, not my mother's house. Neutral ground. I brought Marin on speakerphone, but I did not tell them until they arrived. Adrian agreed to sit nearby as a witness. My Aunt Lucia, Abuela's oldest daughter and the executor of her estate, came too. That was twist number 1 for my mother. Aunt Lucia had never known the education fund was empty. Saturday smelled like rain and old books. Mom arrived wearing church pearls, Daniela wore oversized sunglasses indoors, and Victor carried a folder like he was the attorney. Victor sat down and said, "First, no recording." Marin's calm voice came from my phone. "Maryland requires all party consent for private recordings. This meeting is not being recorded. I am Natalie's attorney, Marin Sato." Daniela's sunglasses came off slowly. Mom pressed her lips together. "You brought a lawyer against your own mother?" I slid printed documents across the table. "You used my name against me first." For 90 minutes, they tried every angle. Mom cried softly into a tissue that smelled like rose lotion. Daniela said the boutique was her dream. Victor said I was being selfish because I had a fancy job waiting. I said almost nothing. I let them talk themselves into corners. Then Aunt Lucia opened the estate file with trembling hands. "Carla," she said, voice sharp as glass, "Rosa left that money for Natalie. Not for inventory. Not for decorations. Not for Daniela's dream." Mom looked at the table. "I was going to put it back." "With what?" Aunt Lucia asked. "Hope?" The near miss came when Victor reached for my document stack, pretending he needed to verify something. Adrian stepped between him and the table. "Don't touch her papers," Adrian said quietly. For once, Victor listened. The climax came 3 weeks later in a conference room at Harbor Community Credit Union. The walls were beige, the carpet smelled like dust, and a tiny speakerphone sat in the middle of the table like a judge. Present were me, Marin, the credit union's counsel, a fraud investigator, Mom, Victor, Daniela, and Daniela's fiancé, Eric, who looked like he had aged 10 years since the engagement. The investigator clicked through a slideshow. The loan application was submitted from an IP address registered to Carla Rivera's home. The uploaded driver's license image was taken from a scan emailed to Ms. Rivera for a school employment verification form. The signature was digitally applied. Mom's face looked waxy. Daniela stared at her lap. Then came twist number 2. The investigator said, "We also found an email from Daniela Mendez to Carla Rivera dated January 9th, subject line, Natalie won't notice until after graduation." Eric turned to Daniela. "You knew?" Daniela's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Marin placed Adrian's audio transcript on the table. "And this establishes intent to use public embarrassment to pressure my client into assuming responsibility." The silence was thick enough to choke on. My heart beat hard, but my hands were steady. Mom whispered, "Natalie, please." I looked at her, really looked at her. and felt the last thread of guilt burn away. "You served me at my graduation dinner," I said. "You stole Abuela's gift. You damaged my name. You don't get to ask for quiet now." The credit union's counsel cleared her throat. "Based on the evidence, Harbor will withdraw its claim against Ms. Rivera and refer the matter for prosecution and civil recovery." Daniela started crying. "Natalie, I'm your sister." I answered, "Then you should have remembered that before you made me your backup plan." The consequences landed fast. Harbor removed me from the loan and sent corrected reports to all 3 credit bureaus. My score climbed back above 720 within months. The police investigation led to charges against Mom and Daniela for fraud-related offenses, and Victor was named in the civil complaint for his role in pressuring me and helping conceal the debt. I did not celebrate their legal trouble, but I did not shield them from it either. Mom lost her job at the school after the administration learned she had misused a scanned copy of my license that passed through her office. Daniela's boutique shut down by August, and Eric ended the engagement after seeing the emails. Victor's contractor referrals dried up when Aunt Lucia told the family exactly what happened at a Sunday dinner where nobody defended him. Aunt Lucia sued to recover Abuela's education fund from Mom's assets. I received $31,600 back after the settlement, plus a written statement clearing me of any involvement. I moved to D.C. in September, started at Sentinel Ridge, and within a year I was promoted to Incident Response Lead with a salary of $118,000. My graduation party was ruined, but my graduation was not. That distinction matters. They stole a dinner, a cake, a few photos, and the illusion that family always means safety. They did not steal my degree, my future, or my name. Last month, I framed my diploma again and hung it in my new apartment overlooking Meridian Hill Park. Under it, I placed a small photo of Abuela Rosa smiling in her red cardigan. Sometimes I make coffee in the morning, watch the city turn gold through my window, and feel peace settle over me like sunlight.